help us by answering so we can have oh, Robert, we don't have our attendees are all muted. So I'm gonna launch the poll now. And John, all yours. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Welcome everyone. My name is, there's our poll. My name is John Mearsma, and I want to welcome you to our Tech Talk on migrating to Cisco Webex Calling. We're going to spend some time today. I mean, Webex is a big topic, and so your time is very valuable. I want to go over and show you some highlights, show you some features, give you the tour, and talk a little bit about what migration means, because it kind of depends where you're at in the process. But the end result is cloud-based calling. And so wherever you're at in the process, there's a migration plan for you. Whether you're using Jabber, whether you're using Unified Communications Manager, whether you're using a different vendor, whether you're slowly integrating Webex now. So there's a process and a way to get you moved to the cloud. And that's part of what makes Webex so great is, again, it's flexible. It is flexible. And so our poll questions, we want to know, what's your biggest concern about migrating? And then, are you familiar with Webex? And then, yeah, we want to know your experience. All right. So with that, I'm going to get started with my presentation. Here I am using Webex to talk about Webex. That out of the way. Okay. Our agenda is, again, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about Webex to give you information, and because it's more than just Unified Communications Manager in the cloud. It is a cloud-based solution. It has new tools, new capabilities, features, things that you may not be aware of. And we just want to give you the overview. And then talk about, as I mentioned, migration. You can move at your own pace. There's many built-in tools that Webex has to get you from where you're at to where you need to be. And then we're also going to spend some time taking a look at analytics, because having a cloud-based platform, you might be surprised at the information that's available to us as administrators and what we have, what we can see, and how we can use that to solve problems and be better at our job, make our systems work better, more effectively, more efficiently. So we will spend a little bit of time looking at analytics. We've hit our poll questions. All right, let's start out with why Webex calling. It is a major, I've been teaching Unified Communications Manager for at least a decade. I go back to version 4. So we're now on version 15. And, each version would come out and there might be a few new features, some new advancements, but generally it's been a pretty stable platform for at least a decade. Well, Webex is far more than that. It's a major improvement over Unified Communications Manager. And getting there requires careful consideration. Now, when you talk Webex calling, or what Webex is, it's actually 3 components. Webex meetings, which is essentially what we're doing right now. You pull up your Webex app, you can have meetings one-on-one, you can have meetings with your group, the ability to have video conferences. But what's great about Webex is they have AI features. When you're done, they'll print out a transcription of your meeting, an AI transcription. So you spend an hour in a meeting and you're like, wow, what did we talk about? I was kind of dozed there for a little bit. You get an AI printout. Here's the high points, here's the action items. So you got Webex calling, Webex meetings, Webex messaging your coworkers. Not only that, but when you share files, you can always go back and the files are going to be there. So you can talk one-on-one or escalate. Sometimes, just yesterday, I was using it chatting with someone and I realized this is going to take a while. Okay, can we just jump on a meeting? And so our messaging escalated to a meeting. And then you have calling. And by calling, there's different levels of calling. You have a Webex app, I have a Webex app, so we can share audio between us. And then there's using Webex to call anybody in the world, using it as your enterprise phone system and the features that it entails. And rest assured, many of you use advanced features with Unified Communications Manager. Webex has them and more. Features that are going to make your administrative, professional life easier, more effective. So we'll go over a little bit of what that entails and some of the choices that you're going to have to make when it comes to Webex calling, as well as some of the features that are available. Now, why migrate? Some of the reasons for migration. There are many benefits, and we could probably spend this entire tech talk going over those. But some of the high points, there's no on-prem hardware. You don't have to go from version 4 to 7 to 10 to 15 and upgrade all of your Unified Communication Manager servers together, your Unity servers, your IM and Present servers, your emergency responder servers. It's in the cloud. So that gives you lower operating expenses. You can also scale. Like one of the issues with Unified Communications Manager is when you go to install it, it asks you, okay, you want a new call manager server? Yes, I do. All right, well, how many users? Well, I don't know. Well, you need to decide right now, 1,000 users, 5,000 users, or 10,000 users when you provision your VM. And that's going to take resources. If you provision too low, then you got to create another VM, or you might utilize too many resources. Well, with Webex, you don't have to worry about that because you're not provisioning physical machines. Then you get mobility. You can use it on your app, your phone, your computer. So all of the users can access Webex in whatever way that they find most comfortable, most efficient. And then you as a manager can access it from the cloud. And it's always up to date. It's always updated. And then from the cloud, everything is centralized. It's essentially a single pane of glass. It's where you can go to get your provision, add users, add phones. And then not only provision objects and endpoints and devices and features and permissions, but analytics and then policy. It's all in one place, one spot. And again, not only are you getting data, but you're getting AI-driven data. You ever pull a log from Unified Communications Manager or look at a trace? You might spend half the day trying to decipher using a variety of tools to understand what you're looking at versus having a whole page which will show you of AI analytics or analytics and then also AI capability. Now, I'm talking about Webex, but what I want to do is take a moment and show you a little bit about Webex. So that's what I want to do is the single pane of glass. And if we go to the website listed here, anybody can go to the admin.webex.com. I'm going to sign in here. Let me zoom in a little bit so that it's easier to see. Okay, so this is the admin.webex.com. And then I can give you the brief high-level tour. So when you first log in, you get the overview page. Features and information that's important to the administrator right up front. And over here to the left, you've got monitoring, analytics. We're going to come back and take a look at analytics. Troubleshooting, reports. And there's a lot. I mean, believe me, we've done an entire tech talk just on those right there. We did a good hour on just analytics, troubleshooting, and reports and showing all the features. So I'm just pointing out how it's all in one place. Then we have our users, groups, locations, and workspaces under management. This is where the administrator goes to add endpoints, devices, users, manage their account, organizational settings. claiming and verifying your domain, your .com, so that you own it. When new users join, they're automatically put into your domain. And then this is a point that we're going to spend some time on, just a little bit, but updates and migrations. Being able to, there's wizards and tools that will help you add your users, devices. If you're currently using Jabber, you can pull those into Webex. Tools to simplify that. There's updating your phones so that if you have IP phones that you want to keep, you can migrate them into Webex capable phones. So we have tools for migration, users, devices, contacts. And then we also have utilities, again, that we can use to pull users from Unified Communications from a variety of sources. Unified Communications Manager, Microsoft, the cloud, all sorts of directories. We can bring them into Webex using utilities. Then we can manage our meetings, messaging, and calling. And it's calling that I want to focus on here briefly. Again, there's a lot here. But when we go to calling, and then features, you get this pop-up here and shows you what's new. Each one of these features is a card that's going to go over what these features are, what they do. And so we can go to any of them if you want to add it or also provision it. But just take a look. It's actually part of my presentation where I kind of talk about each of these. But a variety of features, some of them you'll recognize, virtual extension, single number reach. Go in as an administrator, provision them, and then you'd also, it's all in one spot. Your gateways, your connection to the outside world, all of this in one place. And then if you have an existing Unified Communications Manager, you can implement Connected UC, which is it's an important part of the transition. You don't have to use this, but if you have an on-premises existing Unified Communications Manager, you can connect it to Webex and start taking advantage of some of the analytics and troubleshooting. And the purpose of that, not only are there a bunch of great tools that you can implement when you connect your call manager to Webex, your on-premise, not only are there a bunch of great tools, but then you can take advantage of synchronization and pull your users and your contacts right over, simplify the whole process. So it's all here in one spot. This is the admin.webex. I'll differentiate that. From our user features, which is coming up here shortly. So we have admin calling features, admin calling features. Grab my windows. All right. Now, these, as I alluded to, we have announcements, which is just to tell you a little bit about some of the features. Shared playlist. It's like your music, your auto attendant messages. It's where you can manage those in one place. Call pickup, like picking up a colleague's ringing phone when they step away. So you can implement call pickup, pick up other team members' calls to the right person or department. So you can just add it here. If you have Unified Communications Manager, this isn't available. This is what we work with in Unity or Contact Center, but it's built into Webex. Hunt groups, real simple to set up. Hunt groups are like smart call distributions. Calls come in, you send them to the right group, determine the algorithm. Should it go to everybody? Should it start at the top? Should we choose the longest idle? And then call queue. Holds incoming calls, plays music, and then connects them to the first available agent. So these are features that come with Webex Calling. Call recordings. You can take a look at it's like a DVR for business calls. You can go back up and search, retrieve, and manage recorded calls. Operating modes, automatically route calls to the right destination, whether it be a receptionist, voicemail, or auto attendant based on time of day. Paging groups are like an office intercom. They let users broadcast in a one-way audio message to a group without waiting for your recipients to pick up. Single number reach, users can move calls between devices like a desk phone, mobile, or Webex app without dropping a conversation, so they can pass calls between phones. The receptionist client is a web-based tool that also is part of Webex that helps receptionists screen, transfer, and manage calls. That's an actual website that we can configure. Virtual extensions and voicemail groups. The voicemail group is a shared inbox for calls. It's like a team voicemail box. This is a question that comes up a lot when we teach Unity. How do we do this? And how do we create one inbox for a group of individuals? Well, here we can just set it up. And then virtual extensions. These are like speed dials for external contacts. It's a dialing shortcut, so users can call numbers that are not part of Webex. External PSTN or outside users as if they were internal extensions. You can just dial an extension and map it to a particular destination. And then decked cordless phones it's like a Wi-Fi for phones. Workers in a large warehouse or construction site can stay connected without being tied to a desk. It's a wireless phone solution. And then the last one here listed is Call Park Group, where we can park a group of users and retrieve call. So we can park calls for a group of users and then retrieve them whoever's available. So when a call's parked, it automatically finds the first available place to put it within the group and then announces the assigned extension. So these are the administrative features that come with Webex Calling. Then we have the user features. Users themselves can go in and configure a full set of different features that they can enable. Now, as an administrator, you can enable user features for the entire organization. You can configure it at the group level using templates. You can configure it at the user level. Users themselves can configure it. And I want to take just a moment and show you the user hub features, the end user features, because those are available on a different website. All right. Now, user features. Under settings, user can manage their own profile. But if we go to calling, do not disturb. So this is where users go to manage some of their own features, or as mentioned, the administrator can provision for the entire organization or groups of users if you have administrators or interns or whomever. Call forwarding, do not disturb. All of these provide an explanation. So if you want to know, like, okay, what's personal call routing? So lets others know how long you're away. It's like your presence. Call waiting, call rejection, barge in. So users have a variety of features themselves. This is available at the settings.webex.com, single pane of glass. So you have admin.webex.com where you sign in as an administrator, manage your organization. Users can sign in themselves as their user account, settings.webex.com, and then provision their own user features, where to forward calls, sequential, simultaneous ring, sequential ring, which devices ring. So instead of having to go through Unified Communications Manager and set up mobility, if you've ever done that or you want to set up unified mobility, it's quite a process. Now each user can set it up themselves, or the administrator can, so that when one call comes in, it can ring your cell phone, your car phone, your beeper, whatever you have. Single number reach. And so variety of user features that are available for the administrator and for the users themselves. I wanted to differentiate between administrative features and user features. Now, let's talk. Pardon me. The URL to get to where I was just at, let's see if we can put it in reverse. Settings.webex.com. So this is for the users. And then the administrator is admin.webex.com. Now, migration. You can, one of the first things you're going to do, number one, you go at your own pace. So migration can have multiple, it can have a different connotation depending on where you're at. I mean, what is migration necessarily? You already have your organizational phone system. So we need to take our users who exist in a different database, they're not in Webex yet. So we have our users, their phones, possibly Jabber, their contacts. And then we also have policies, permissions. What can they do? And then we have to decide how are they going to access the public switch telephone network. So these are all part of migrating, and you can be at completely different places in this. So again, you go at your own pace. So the pre-migration phase is you want to make sure you have a Webex organization set up. You want to be able to log into Webex, admin.webex.com, put in your organization. Then you have a .com, a .gov.edu. So you'll want to claim ownership of that domain so that nobody else can create Webex accounts using your .gov.com.edu. And then also when users join, hey, we get Webex set up yet? Oh, okay, let me sign in. They sign in with their email account, john@abc.com. Boom, Webex knows, oh, abc.com, that's already been provisioned. That's already been verified. That's the organization you go to. Oh, hey, that was easy. So getting in set up with Webex, getting your domains. Then, if you have Unified Communications Manager on-prem, so in whichever version you have, you can connect it to Webex. Now I say whatever version you have after 11.5. So you need 11.5. And then, oh yes, absolutely. The question was, can some of the user features? 100%. Gives you complete control over what features and you want your users to have. So don't ever think that users have full run. You know, that's part of being a collaborations administrator sometimes is, no, you can't have those features. Yes, no, or, okay, well, you can. How do we make sure that you have those features? But we don't want everybody to have those features because, you know, we don't want to have, we have all kinds of people working there. So absolutely we can configure what is available to whom. Some features you might want to turn on for the whole company. Other times you might only want to turn it on for a few users or let the users themselves determine that. As I was saying about connected UC, you can connect your own Unified Communications Manager. And then when you do that, I'll see if I can point some of these out when I do the analytics demo. You can use Web RTMT. So you have a web-based real-time monitoring tool in Webex that will pull information, traces, and logs from your existing on-prem call manager. Telemetry, insights, these provide analytics, call quality data, and they will help you monitor your existing on-prem, just the ones that you have right now sitting in your data center, and connect, and then you can take advantage of a variety of features. And when you migrate, you have connected UC, you can pull users from Call Manager, you can pull them right into Webex. Contacts, you can pull them right into Webex. You don't have to, but if you have an on-prem and you want to slowly migrate, absolutely, you can start that process. Now, depending on the version, Webex has a tool. You're like, well, how do I get my call manager to connect to Webex? No problem. There's a wizard, there's a tool that you can run. Oh my. I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the downsides of doing this. Thank you. However, I don't want to go back and I saw the pop-up chat. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, there's a PowerPoint. There are a lot of buttons to push. If you don't push them all at the right time, you don't see what I want you to see. So, the migration phase. We can get our existing to connect. Then, now we got to start the planning. So now we're thinking about migrating to Webex. Okay. We've got our organization. We might connect our call managers. By the way, if you have version 15 of Unified Communications Manager, you can connect to Webex just through command line. You can log into the CLI and implement connection to Webex, put in your organization ID, and your existing on-prem CUCM will connect to your Webex. So it's a real simple process. If you don't have version 15, no problem. Webex has a tool that you can use to create a COP file that you can put onto your Unified Communications Manager to connect it. So it's a real simple process regardless of version. Now, part of the planning phase, you're going to migrate. One of the things you have to consider is how are our users going to get to the public switched telephone network? Because there's 3 different options we have to choose from. In addition to the PSTN calling option, which I'll go over, are we going to keep our existing phones? Can we keep our existing phones? Not all phones are capable of connecting to Webex. And then features and all of that needs to be decided too. What features are we going to take advantage of? And do we want to set it at the group level or at the organizational level or at the individual level? Fortunately, migration tools. There are migration tools available that will help you get your users, get your contacts. If your users are currently signing in to Unified Communications Manager with Jabber, they can transition from Jabber to Webex. And when I say Webex, I mean the Webex app, so that they can use the Webex app to connect to Unified Communications Manager and make calls, just like they used to do with Jabber, now using Webex. So there's different types of migration depending on what you're currently using. Migration tools for MPP, which is the type of software that you have to have on your phone in order to connect to Webex. So if you have existing phones, update your software, they can connect to Webex. And then you can also use tools for pulling users and contacts into Webex. Now, users. Think about, we want to get our users added to Webex. And there's many ways that you can do this. We can use tools like Directory Connector. If you already have it depends on where you're at. If you have an on-prem Microsoft Active Directory, a .com, a .gov, .edu, and it's an on-prem, you sign in, username, password, Microsoft database, you can use Directory Connector and pull those users right into Webex. Real simple to set that up. Download the tool, put it on your Active Directory server, decide which users to pull into Webex, connects them. If you're using Azure, no problem. There's a tool that allows you to pull those. You can use Directory Connector for that. SCIM, which is a way of managing what Okta uses. And so Okta, if that is your identity provider, your directory of users and passwords, you can pull those in. You can import them from Unified Communications Manager. If all of your users are currently on-prem, you can use the connected UC, connect your on-prem Unified Communications Manager. I like to say Call Manager because it's a mouthful. But your on-prem Call Manager, you can pull those right into Webex as well. So, variety of options. You can add users manually, CSV. So you can say, well, let me export users from Call Manager. There's a tool, if you go into your Call Manager, where you can export all of your users into essentially, you can export them, put them into CSV, import them. You can use APIs. If you're not comfortable using APIs, well, there's a fantastic website Cisco has called DevNet. DevNet is where I started. Didn't know a thing about APIs. Been working on Cisco products for 2 decades. What's an API? Why would I ever use one? Sounds weird. Went to DevNet. It was like, well, they have labs. They're probably too hard. Well, they weren't. They started you from absolute scratch. Okay, you don't know anything about APIs? Here's what it does. One computer can talk to another computer. Okay, here's how to send an API. Wow, that's just like it's like going to a website. It's essentially the same thing. So if you can browse the internet, then you can send an API. Oh, so it's very handy. And there's many tools available using APIs as a way of sending and retrieving data. So Webex supports an ever-growing number of those. You can also use just-in-time, where when you sign in, it will create your account. When you log in, there's more advanced tools. You can manually add users, and they can log in and register themselves. As I mentioned, once you own the domain, users can just go to Webex themselves, sign in as an end user, put in their email address. Webex says, oh, you're part of this verified domain. I know right where you belong. So we have all these different ways of getting users into the system. As I mentioned, one of the simplest ways is directory sync. This allows you to sync users with a cloud-based. So you have a directory of users. It's not Call Manager. Okay. It's on Microsoft. All right, fine. A lot of users have Active Directory. But what kind of Microsoft? If you're using cloud-based, Azure or Entra, if that's where your users are, then you're going to use directory sync. That's just a wizard tool from Webex. Okay, so this will pull cloud users into Webex. Directory Connector is a different tool. If you have Microsoft users, you have an Active Directory that's on-prem. So you have a Windows server. So if you have a physical Windows server, you have a domain of users, you would use Directory Connector. In fact, can't resist. As an instructor, I like to try to use as much, here, let me show you as I can. And so I believe I can pull that right up right now. I should be able to do that. Let me see if I can give you just a quick little peek at Directory Connector. I'm not sharing my screen, but I will. I just want to make sure. Okay, there it is. Yeah. So here's just a, it's just a lab window. This is a Windows server. It's just a server I set up. And pardon me, go back. And if you'll see here on the desktop, there's Directory Connector. Well, we downloaded this from Webex. You install it here on the Active Directory server, and then you can perform a sync. It will go in, look at your .com, .gov, .edu, and then it will allow you to pull users in. So this is Directory Connector, which takes a look at your Active Directory users and computers, which if you have a .com, that's where all of your users are. You have organizational units with your users, Microsoft, so you can implement policy, control what they can do on their endpoints. And then if you want to pull these users in, download and install Directory Connector from Webex. Easy tool. So this is Directory Connector. As I mentioned, Directory Sync is a wizard that runs, or tool inside of Webex if you have a cloud-based directory. So they make it simple to get users in. Yeah, it depends on what you have. See, that's the thing. When you say most common, but yeah, if you have users that are on Microsoft.com, if you have a .com that's using Active Directory, that's the Microsoft tool that allows you to manage all of your end users. A lot of companies have that. So the question is, I got to get those, because that's where your users come from. Every person in your company that signs in. So yeah, there you go. That's what you would do. You got an on-prem, then you would use Directory Connector and you could pull those users right in. It's not the only way. I mean, you could sync the users into Call Manager so that they're in Call Manager, connect it to Webex, and then you would pull your users from Call Manager into Webex. I'm saying you have the option. That's all. That's all. And then, yeah, you could also export BAT and import them. Those are all valid points. Those are all valid ways to pull users in. So there's a variety of ways depending on your situation. I wanted to take a moment because when I was first trying to sort this out, I got stuck a little bit with Directory Sync and Directory Connector. I was like, what are we talking about here? So syncing users, depending on where your users are. If you have cloud connected, where your Call Manager is part of Webex, you're on-prem, then you can just sync users from Call Manager, go right into their end users list and pull them right into Webex. Or, as mentioned, you could import. You could do a manual CSV import if you have you want to manually add users. The difference is, right, if you do a manual, it's a one-time. Sync users, but if you do a manual, it's one time. So you have to continually do it. And so you decide on a single identity, a common identity, which means your users can come from one place. Now, contacts, something else you want to migrate. Users have a lot of contacts. I remember when I was first starting out, I was wanting to learn about Microsoft, and I was trying to get my hands on as many computers as I could from friends. And I'd say, hey, what do we got? Windows 98? Oh, I can put Windows XP on it. Would you like me to put Windows XP on your computer? Oh yeah, that'd be lovely. Here. Oh, no problem, no problem. Let me take it home for the weekend. I'll put Windows XP, bring it back Monday. It'll be great. A lot of people trusted me to do that. So I'd learn all kinds of things going wrong and figure out how to install it Windows XP when I was first starting. And I tell you that story because I did it on one of the director's computers. And I was so happy, right? You got Windows XP, it looks great, it's better than Windows 98. And she said, where are my contacts? What? She had Outlook. She had Outlook. And this was well before cloud. Where's her Outlook had a contact list of enormous amount of, and I didn't even think to do that. I was so excited to have a computer to put Windows XP on that did not occur to me. I learned a lot of things the hard way, which is another reason why training is so important, because there's a reason they call it the hard way. Sometimes we can create resume generating events. The contact migration is we can pull users depending on the type of or contacts. If the users have Jabber and we want to pull their contacts in, they can have two types of contacts. I am in presence users and non-presence, where they just make custom contacts. We can pull those into Webex, so you won't lose your contacts. You won't lose your contact. An administrator can do it. You can do bulk export from IM and presence. So if you go to IM and P, you can pull your custom contacts out. You have wizards or tools, pull out your IM and presence contacts, and you can bring them right into Webex. Or users themselves, if you want, when the users sign in to Webex, if they have Jabber and you're like, oh, okay, on Friday you're using Jabber, it's Monday, you're going to use Webex. Great. When they sign into Webex, it will prompt them to pull in their contacts if you decide to make it user-driven. Again, it's about options. There's no one way. But rest assured, contacts will be brought in. Then there's individual contacts, and then there are organizational contacts. These are the ones that all users can look up. Company-wide contacts like human resources or IT. All the users can search and call organizational contacts. So the administrator controls those. And again, you can either use connected UC when you connect your existing call manager to Webex, or so you can import them, or you could sync them from directories. If you have Jabber, you can migrate your users to transition from the Jabber app to the Webex app. And there's a process that you would go through. It's not an extensive process, but it does have to be performed meticulously, which is part of the migration process. But yes, you can switch users from Jabber to Webex without changing your DNS settings or your Jabber device profiles. So that's part of a transition. Hey, we're using Jabber on-prem call manager, and now we're using Webex call manager, getting used to Webex until we transition from that and move into cloud-based complete control. For your phones, you can migrate your phones. There's tools that will take your existing enterprise firmware and move them into Webex firmware called MPP. Now, depending on the model, certain models are not capable of registering the Unified Communications Manager. Others have to be transitioned. 78s and 88s can be either MPP or they can be enterprise firmware. It's an update process to change the software. And again, there's tools that help you do that, to convert. Part of the update process. Now, the other thing are considerations. I want you to be aware, PSTN options. Right now, existing as is on-prem, we have multiple sites, call manager, calls go through the WAN, all calls go to call manager. If you want to reach the outside world, you might have a cube or a gateway, calls go to the outside world. That's how it's done today. With Webex, you have one of three choices when it comes to PSTN. Number one, you can use the Cisco calling plan, where you just say, hey, I've got Webex. Hey, Cisco, can you provide PSTN access? Sure, no problem. It's all taken care of. Great. All calls just go from Webex to the outside world. You don't have to worry about a thing other than establishing that's the service option you want. You can also choose Cloud Connected, which are Cisco partners. And there's many partners that can provide PSTN service. If you don't want it to run through Cisco, you can run through a partner. Calls again will go from Webex to the PSTN. Nothing to do on site for you. Now, if you want to keep your existing calling, If you currently have a way of getting to the public switch telephone network and you want to keep it so that users, when they call, even though they're all connected through the internet to WebEx, if they call the outside world, you want them to go through you. You can do that. You can absolutely do that. You're going to need to establish a connection from WebEx to your local gateway. Your local gateway is essentially a cube. So we have to provision a cube. It can be a Cisco cube, can be a third-party cube. And when I say cube, I'm saying Cisco Unified Border Element, also known as a session border controller. It can be a Cisco router configured, or it can be third-party. But WebEx, Cisco, establishes a secure connection so that WebEx and the local gateway can talk securely. And there's different options for that, depending on how many callers you're expecting. So there's different ways of setting this up, but the end result is that calls will use your presence PSTN connection. Can they be combined? Not at the same location, but within the same company, yes, but not at the same location. So there are certain considerations. You can have multiple ways of getting to the PSTN. It's a great question, but not at the same location. You can keep your own or use cloud-based. Now, I wanted to just briefly show you Webex Analytics. And by the way, if the questions pop up and I don't get a chance to, I've got so many windows open and you don't want me fumbling to try to find. So I see them, I try to answer them. If I don't get a chance to answer, I will take a look at them and provide an answer. And this will all be uploaded to the web. So our presentation will be uploaded as well as any answers. So what I want to do is jump in and show you real quick. And this is the analytics. I just want to show you, take a quick tour, just a brief spin. I know your time is very valuable. And show you just some analytics, because I think it's really kind of neat to see some of the things that are there. Okay, got the password, and this should do it. Okay, it's a quick demo. Here we go. Oh, not paused anymore. Okay, so analytics. Just want to point out, when you have Webex calling, it's going to be able to keep track of a lot. Up here at the top, we've got all of these are dashboards, but you can jump in and see dashboards, and then we have meetings, messaging, calling, analytics on devices, workspaces. So all of these little tabs up here, you can go to meetings, and then we can take a look at quality. How many meetings? Who's in the most meetings? How long did it take them to join the meeting? What quality? How many minutes? Let me see each of these. And then what's interesting about all of these is you can go back. Let me go back and say maybe a year. So you can go back and take a look at somebody's call, somebody's meeting, individuals meeting, participants, and you can go back quite a while. And so we can go in and see individuals. You can actually go in and see what they were using when they were in the meeting, what kind of computer, where they were at, what their IP address was. There's a lot of information. Messaging, you can go in and take a look at message types. And so we can see information on messages, calling, media quality, called history, call queue, auto attendant. So when there's issues and problems, we can go back and see who's having the issues, what is the delay, jitter, latency, all of those. Devices, again, over here we have subsets. So we have rooms, headsets, quality issues for devices. So when you get complaints, you have an historical record, and you can also just kind of take a look and see what's happening at different locations, different places, different users for a variety of settings. Now, this is just one aspect, analytics, but the idea that you could go back months, weeks, and have it's just part of your normal call control system, your cloud-based call control system. Personally, as an administrator, it's impressive. It's impressive. And wanting to respect your time, I wanted to point out that as we bring ourselves here to the close, you want to make sure you have a successful migration. You had a lot of great questions in this session. And that's what class gives us a chance to go through and answer. And not only give you answers, but show you, demonstrate, hands-on. So in order to have a successful migration, you want to make sure you execute it precisely. To do that, hands-on. Hands-on is going to help you get the knowledge you need. Our hands-on labs allow you to see the process, troubleshoot effectively, make sure that, because you're going to be performing migrations, you're going to be performing call control settings and seeing, okay, avoid this problem. Troubleshooting. One of the classes we teach, we have a 5-day class just on SIP. Well, everything uses SIP. Videos, voice, Webex, they all use SIP. Cubes, I mentioned you have to set up, if you want to keep your local gateway, you have to set up a Cisco cube. That's something we do in our SIP class. We build a cube from scratch. Part of our training, you're going to know how to read SIP traces, and you're going to know how to understand them. Why that's so important is it gives you a chance to stop problems potentially before they can impact the organization. And then also learn best practices. For call quality, you want to make sure that you're implementing the right steps, and that's what training offers. So to summarize, Webex Calling gives you an enormous amount of features, both as an administrator and as an end user. There are many fantastic tools built in to help you migrate wherever you're at to where you need to go. And then Webex Analytics gives you historical information on meetings, messages, callings, endpoints, users, a lot of data available to you now and as far back as you need it. The next steps, getting the right training to make sure that your migration is successful and smooth. And that's the essentials of Webex Calling. Is our 3-day Webex class that takes you through the whole Webex, every tab, every option, every feature. I mean, we spend going through that menu and making sure that not only do you see it, but that you do it. You build your own organization, your own domains, your own users. You build a cube. You set up a local gateway. So you build the cube. You place calls. You test it. You verify it. And you make sure that you understand how to implement it and troubleshoot it. The 20 Webex code gets you 20% off. You register before March 31st. And with that, I want to say thank you for your participation. Greatly appreciate it. We hope to see you soon. And again, I love the feedback. We're going to post this online, so you'll have an opportunity to view anything that you want to see again, as well as answer your questions. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for being with us.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.